Hello, students. Today, we are going to explore a very exciting and important time in European history. We're going to look at an age of great change, an age that happened right after the French Revolution. You see, this one event, it changed everything. It made people believe that a new kind of society was actually possible. The old ways were not the only ways to live. To understand just how big this change was, let's first take a step back and imagine what Europe was like before the 18th century. Life was very, very rigid and predictable. Society was neatly divided into what they called estates and orders. All the power was with the aristocracy, the nobles, and the church controlled almost everything in social and economic life. Who you were was decided by your birth. For most people, this just seemed like the only way society could ever be. But after the revolution, powerful new ideas about individual rights and about who should control social power started being discussed everywhere. These ideas didn't just stay in Europe, They traveled far, even to India, where they were discussed by thinkers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So, with the old world broken, a huge question came up. What comes next? This started a great debate. And, well, not everyone agreed on the answer. Three main groups emerged, each with very different ideas. Let's look at these three groups: the liberals, the radicals, and the conservatives. Now, what's really interesting here is that these were not political parties like we have today. They were different ways of thinking about how society should be rebuilt.
First, let us try to understand the liberals.
Liberals believed in religious tolerance, which was a very rare thing at that time. They also wanted a representative government with laws interpreted by an independent judiciary to protect the rights of citizens. Now, this is a very important point, and one where many students get confused. So let's pause and think about this for a moment. Were these liberals Democrats in the way we think of the word today? The answer is no. And this slide brilliantly illustrates the key difference. While they wanted an elected government, they felt that only men of property should have the right to vote. They did not support what we call universal adult franchise, meaning a vote for all citizens. And they certainly did not support giving the vote to women. All right, now let's move to the second group, the radicals, who had a very different vision for society. In sharp contrast to the liberals, radicals wanted a government based on the majority of the country's population. They supported women's right to vote, and they opposed the special privileges of the rich, whether they were big landowners or wealthy factory owners.
And finally, we have the conservatives, who were a bit worried about all this talk of radical change.
Before the French Revolution, conservatives were completely against the idea of change. But afterwards, they accepted that some change was unavoidable. But they believed it needed to happen through a slow, careful process that respected traditions. Think of it like changing the rules in your school. They would prefer small, gradual changes rather than a sudden overhaul of the entire rulebook. Meanwhile, as all of these great debates were happening, another huge change was sweeping across Europe: the Industrial Revolution. New cities and big industrial regions started to develop. Railways expanded across the land. And people began moving from their villages into the cities to find work in factories. But this created profound new social problems. Think about it. Working hours were very long, wages were very poor, and unemployment was common. The new towns were crowded, and housing and sanitation were terrible. These issues made the debates about how to structure society even more urgent. So both liberals and radicals, and remember, many of them were factory owners themselves, began searching for solutions to these pressing new problems. So, by the middle of the 19th century, Europe was at a crossroads with three competing visions for what the future should look like. So, let's just do a quick recap. We had these three very clear paths. One was from the liberals, based on limited rights. Another was from the radicals, based on majority rule. And the third was from the conservatives, based on tradition and slow change. These different ideas about societal change clashed throughout the 19th century, a time of great social and political turmoil, as factories, cities, and new problems changed Europe forever. This question sets the stage for our next topic. What if the root of all these social problems was not about who gets to vote or how fast change happens, but about the very idea of private property? This new idea was called socialism, and it would powerfully shape the next century.